Hi everyone, welcome to this mini-series for the Creative Expressions Corvus die, part of the Gemini range from Sue Wilson. The die comes in 3 sections. You get the actual die itself and 2 outer edges. I've already pre-cut the die and stuck it on my magnetic sheet with the die, so that I can see the cut as I flip through all my dies. I can actually just at a glance think, oh, it's that. But this is the die that you actually get. I've already used mine a few times and I'm under the impression, for me, it's best to use it with wax paper. It's a very intricate die and there's a lot of holes in it to create the pattern. I've stuck some wax paper in mine, just using one of the semi-permanent glue pens, and that way it holds it in place time after time, so I don't throw it away and then have to make another one. So it stays there for a good maybe 15-20 cuts, then I'll have to get rid of that and do it again. But it is a little bit of a money saver, is to be able to reuse your wax paper. So that's our die. And it measures, let's have a look, bring the ruler in, it measures nearly 160 millimetres, 16 centimetres, and if I turn it round we can look at inches as well. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just over 6 inches, 6¼ inches for the actual die itself. You get 2 edges with it. You get the bottom edge and the top edge. So if you can see that, you can use it as I have done there to create that pattern on the actual sheet. So you get 3 sections. You don't have to use all 3 together. You don't have to use 2 of them together, you can use them separately. You would maybe want to edge your card using the edge strip, or use the actual die itself in your card. So what I've done is I've die cut a couple for you to be able to see, just a couple of pieces. You can see how intricate it is. Now for this one I've used the actual die itself and just one of the edge strips. So that way I've got a straight edge and I could maybe use that underneath the matten layer, something like that. Use it down the edge of a card to create something beautiful that way. You could also actually run ribbon through some of the holes and doing it to form a border. So that's one option. Coming up are 2 demonstrations that I filmed to make cards using the actual die itself. This one I've used the Corvus set in the card without using either of the edges, just the die itself, and that way it's actually just in the piece of card that's the matten layer. Or what you could do is use it as an edge to form an edge on a card like this one. And then you'd be able to miter the corners to make a perfect square, depending on what size of card that you're using. For this one I've actually made flowers for my corners. So that's one of the mini-series that's coming up for you to be able to make this card. Going back to the die, it's always great to keep your dies separate on magnetic sheets. That way you know where they are, you can easily get to them, you can see them. For the Creative Expressions range, I always add my magnetic sheet to the actual back of the packaging. So that way I've got reference to what it can do, where it's from, that type of thing. It's also got the die number on, so that if I ever wanted to look up to see what else was in that set, I could do. And I just think this die is absolutely gorgeous. I have used it on many projects, not just for filming, but for scrapbooking and for cards that I've given away to people. It does make an excellent border, it makes a great edge. I personally I'm so glad that I purchased this. But I did want to sort of film something to be able to show you how to use it, because it's so adaptable and there's so many different ways to be able to use it. It's okay me just sat talking about this, but once you see it in action and you see what you can do with it, like the projects that I've just shown you, I think that way you'll get more of an idea and you'll think, oh yeah, I could do this with it, or I could do that. So it's a good purchase. It's not an expensive die. I purchased mine on a large auction site and it was less than £7. So for less than £7 you've got a die that is so economical and I would say an essential to your stash, really. There's many more in different designs in this range, and I for one will be buying more. So that's basically my overview of the Corvus. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please watch part 2 and part 3 of how I've made the 2 projects using it. If there's any dies or anything that you would like me to talk about or to make something with, please let me know. Send me a message on YouTube or find me on Facebook at Anne-Marie V. So thank you so much for watching my overview of the Corvus die, and I'd like to see you again sometime. Thank you. Bye.